In this video, I'm going to be discussing about another very common cause of fatigue, which I haven't normally mentioned in my earlier videos, and that's related to concussion, either after a road traffic accident or a sports injury or sometimes a traumatic brain injury. I'm really thankful to my viewers who have seen my earlier videos on chronic fatigue and pointed out this particular condition where fatigue is again very prevalent. And so I thought this video I would explore a little bit more about our understanding of it. Now, what actually happens in a concussion? Whether that be because of sport, whether that be because of a road traffic accident, essentially it's a form of brain injury that happens. And you have two phases. In concussion, you have the early sort of excitatory phase where all the neurons in the brain get hyperactivated. And then there's often a second phase that happens after a few days. And this is what's called the spreading depression phase. So you've got the excitation phase, which is immediate. And then the spreading depression phase is another part where all the neurons go into a much lower energy phase for an extended period of time. Studies say that this can last anywhere from 2 weeks to sometimes as long as 8 to 10 weeks. And during this period of low energy, a lot of people expect to see fatigue and a variety of other brain fog and cognitive dysfunction, lack of interest, libido loss, low mood changes and behavior changes are quite common. And these are all part of the recovery phase, because around the 8-week to probably 2-month, maybe 3-month mark, most of these energy changes in the brain gradually get back to normal and most people recover. And so fatigue is a very common presentation of concussion, definitely in the acute phases there. But there's a percentage of people in whom the concussion related fatigue continues to persist. And this is the stage at which what is an acute fatigue stage becomes a chronic fatigue syndrome, and what they call in this literature as systemic exertional disorder. And this really becomes a problem because it again starts to behave very much like chronic fatigue, and often people get labeled as chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia. Indeed, studies say that 87% of patients can be left with fatigue, and sometimes even after 5 years, up to 70% of patients with concussion do list fatigue as a major symptom along with brain fog. So it's a very common place for people to get fatigue. An emerging theory that is in fact shown to be prevalent in many parts of the world where there is concussion and brain injury is the possibility that there is probably structural brain damage in the form of injury to the pituitary gland. Now that effectively is called post-traumatic hypopituitarism. The pituitary is a gland that produces and is responsible for controlling the production of many of the hormones that effectively control our body. This can be the growth hormone, the female sex hormones, the thyroid hormones, and the steroid and the cortisol. So effectively, if there is a decreased production of all these hormones because of a damage to the pituitary gland and poor functioning of the pituitary gland, then you can still have all of these symptoms around fatigue coming on. And we now think that up to 30% of patients with concussion related fatigue may be actually having a structural problem to the pituitary gland. This is still emerging research, so keep watching out for this space there. There's potentially the role for testing these kind of hormones in people who've got persistent fatigue after concussion or brain injury, and that's something they need to be discussing with their specialists in the field there. But this is something to be aware of, that concussion related fatigue is another common cause of fatigue and is something that needs to be addressed in sometimes the same fashion. The principles of managing the fatigue there are still the same. The ability to prioritize, to pace, to plan, to look after yourself, pay attention to the important things around sleep management, around nutrition management, around physical activity, around controlling and using mind-body therapies, that doesn't change. but we now know that fatigue management in concussion is another important area as well. I hope you found this video useful, and certainly thank you once again for helping me address this important topic. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you for watching the videos. I hope you're getting value from them. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button for notifications on when the next videos are to be released.